Let me ask you something real. Are you building a collection, or are you buying art that makes you look like you belong in the room? Because if every piece on your wall is there to impress someone else, that's not building legacy. That's not building narratives. That's not building values. That's you being performative and only using art as a tool to get somewhere else. The truth is, clout fades, but legacy compounds. And if you want your art collection to actually mean something to your family, to your finances for sure, and to your community, and over time, historically, to history, then we need to talk about the difference between collecting for legacy or collecting for clout. This isn't about choosing love over strategy or strategy over love. You can do both. You need to do both. But collecting what moves you and what holds long-term values, that's what separates what we would call a buyer and then what we would call an art collector. So let's slow down and ask the real question. Who or what are you collecting for? Is it for validation so you can have people over and show your collection, have a cocktail hour at your home? Is it a part of your aesthetic? Are you collecting to build something that actually holds value? Emotional, cultural, historical, and financial value. Because if we're going to talk about it, about the truth, then you have to know that I believe that you can have a collection with personal, cultural, and historical meaning. It also be very beautiful and it holds serious wealth. But that will take intentionality. That will take intentional direction. And it can be one of the most beautiful journeys that you can go on. And I'm not saying that I'm so deep in it yet myself, actually physically holding artwork. But I see it as one of the most beautiful journeys you can go on, going deeper into yourself, going deeper into your history, and using art as a tool to do that. And through your deep learning about your culture, about you, about the things you believe in, you accumulated wealth. So when I say I believe you don't have to choose between passion and value, it's about choosing purpose over performance. For those of you who are new, I'm Mariah Elise, and I'm all about creating entry points and accessibility points for artists and for collectors and for people just really enthused about art to get started, to grow, and to progress wherever you are in the art world. So I'm just really deeply thinking about these things and spending time really thinking about these things so that you can have access points into what I think about the art world. So I want to start this by asking again, the collector watching this, are you collecting for ego or are you collecting for purpose? Quietly answer that question, because ego collecting doesn't always look like flexing. Sometimes, most times, it looks very smart. Sometimes it looks strategic. It's when you're buying because someone else said it's hot, because it showed up on the who to watch list, because a big gallery added them, or a celebrity posted it, or a really big art collector posted it. It's when you didn't even slow down to ask yourself, do I actually connect with the work? Now, if you connect with the work that is presented to you all the time, well, that's amazing. You can just trust that the people that are around you will bring you good art, which is also a skill. But if you are the person that just wants to collect what's hot, if you're not asking yourself if the work that you're collecting is aligned with what you're trying to shape as a collector, and here's where it goes even deeper. If you're a person that's collecting for access, I call it access collecting, which I think is a strategy. But if you are collecting for access, and we have to just call that what it really is, it's buying art for who it gives you proximity to, not for what the artwork is about or what it says, not for how the artwork moves you, but for how you think it'll place you in the room, which is, it's your business. If that's a strategy for you, then it is. If you're doing it to get closer to a dealer to buy another artwork, or closer to a curator, or a collector circle you're trying to impress, you want to sit at the table. So, you're using art as your ticket, specific artists as tools, specific artists as tickets. But anyway, here's the thing. When you collect for access, you don't build power. you borrow it. And borrowed power expires. Access collecting is about social capital. And I truly get it. Trust me. I'm going to continue to, just jog you guys back. My background is in strategic communications, public relations, marketing. So understand that I really do understand social capital. So I'm not dismissing that. But legacy collecting is about cultural capital. And when you honestly build cultural capital, the social capital is usually right behind it and is usually very sustainable. Building a collection in that way is about ownership and narrative and intention of future value. And so I say again, yes, you can absolutely build wealth with your collection, but wealth with no direction, no story, no values, that's not legacy. That's just accumulation. So if you want to collect with clarity, if you want to build something that holds, even when the hype fades, then let's talk about what legacy collecting actually looks like. Because purpose leaves a paper trail, and clout's gonna disappear the minute someone with bigger clout walks through the door. Part 2. Let's get into what legacy collection actually looks like. Because legacy is not focused on sentiment, but it doesn't ignore the market. It doesn't ignore sentiment. And legacy is definitely not about randomness. A real legacy collection is built on multiple things. So let's talk about 3 of those things: equity, narrative, values. And all 3 have to be present. 1, equity. Buy with intention, not with emotion alone. Equity is where legacy and value converge. Let's be really clear. Legacy collecting does not mean ignoring the market. It means understanding the market and positioning yourself within it with purpose. Thinking about equity in legacy collecting means you know what artists you should be watching. You know who's watching them. You know where they've shown. You have an idea of where they're going and how their market is building. You know if they're institutionally supported or if there's even a chance for that. You know if serious collectors and curators are paying attention to them. Is their gallery investing in career building or just building short-term buzz? Yes, when you're building a legacy collection, you're collecting from a place of belief, love, and passion, but those emotions are informed. You're not collecting blindly. You're watching and learning, you're moving early, and you're moving wisely. So no, I don't think you have to choose between loving the work that you're collecting and making a smart move. You can collect with heart and with foresight when you are thinking about equity in terms of your legacy collecting. Legacy collecting isn't passive. It's active, it's strategic, or intentional for a softer word. And this is the lane where long-term value is built, not just in money, but in meaning and in strategy. So when you're thinking about legacy collecting, you want to think about building equity in these ways. And if you have that as a core part of your strategy, even as you're deciding to collect with your heart and to collect what really means something to you, you still understand that you are being selective on what you believe can hold equity. That doesn't have to always be considered. Sometimes you just do collect what you like and what you love. But this should be a key part of your strategy. Number 2 is narrative. What is your collection saying? So as it's time to talk about narrative, I want us to all, and I want you to ask yourself, if someone walked into your home or looked through your collection without you there, what would they know about you? What would they know about you? What would they see repeated across the artists that you have been supporting? What stories are you highlighting that they can see within what your collection is saying? What movements are you honoring, or what movements are you elevating? Narrative turns your collection into this living ecosystem, this living archive of things that resonate with you, that mean something to you, that are an extension of you, that you love. Not just a bunch of artworks, but a cohesive voice and a personal through line. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be intentional. And a real collection, in my opinion, is a conversation across time. Collections that have narrative will always live on beyond how much the collection is worth. But also understand that if the collection has narrative, is going to add to the value of that collection financially. Number 3, values, the soul of the collection. So we know that equity is the strategy. We know that narrative is the story, but we got to talk about values, and our values are going to be our why. Why this artist? Why this work? Why now? Are you collecting from people that you respect, people that you see yourself in? Are you investing in stories that align with your belief systems? Do you even know what collecting values are? Your values anchor you when the market moves, when trends shift, and when Clout starts whispering in your ear, come get this. Your values remind you why you started in the first place and where you're headed, okay? So you need equity, narrative, and values. These 3 things are what separate the people that are decorating their home or creating just with only aesthetic in mind, which is fine for anyone that collects in that way. It's what separates the legacy collectors from the collectors that collect with ego, from the people who leave behind something that matters. The legacy collectors and the ego collectors leave something very different behind. Clout collecting is reaction. Legacy collecting is direction. But how do you actually shift from one to the other, especially if you're already started collecting? You have to get clear. Now, I feel like we have a really good foundation for what legacy collecting is and what it isn't. For anyone that's listening that might want to consider collecting with legacy in mind, and right now you're collecting with clout in mind, well, shifting from clout to legacy collecting is something that I want to hone in on just for a second. Again, clout collecting is reaction, legacy collecting is direction. But how do you actually shift, especially if you've already started collecting and building this collection? I see a lot of people make mistakes like this, which is why I really recommend doing a fantasy art collection, so you can kind of, get through those steps in a fantasy way. It's not about starting over if you are a clout collector. It's just about getting clear. I want to give you guys 3 just practical shifts that will change how you collect starting right now if you want to be a legacy collector. So the first thing is know what you stand for. Legacy starts with identity. If your collection reflects nothing about you, your story, your values, your vision, then it might be time to realign. But let me know in the comments what you feel about that, because I want you to ask yourself what themes, what histories or ideas are important to me, to you, right? What are you drawn to that you want to preserve or spotlight? What conversations do you want this collection to spark even after you're gone? Clarity when you're choosing to collect like a legacy collector here is your compass. It helps you choose with purpose and not with pressure. Number 2, audit what you already own. Take a look at your collection, and let's be honest, some of us bought from hype. That's actually my husband's thing. He just really loves these things. And let's be honest, people buy from hype all of the time, right? I mean, hello, we actually bought that for my daughter's room. We thought it would be really cute for her room, but it's still from hype, and that's okay sometimes. But now it's time for us to ask ourselves, do these pieces still align with what we view our collection as? Do they still align with where we're going? Do they speak to each other? Or are they kind of disjointed and disconnected at this point? What's missing from this collection that could anchor it in meaning, right? And so these are the questions that you start asking yourself as you prepare to be a legacy collector or shift from this clout chasing collecting to legacy collecting. Your collection is a living document, and you can revise it. You can build around it. You can add context. You can fill in the blanks. But you need to know what the story is of your collection in order to do that. And you have to be, over time, just chipping away and building on their story as you add to your collection. Number 3, study the market with purpose. We don't abandon strategy. We don't ignore the market. We deepen our knowledge of it. Legacy collectors know the game. They just don't let it lead them blindly. And that means watching artists' careers develop over time, noticing gallery placements, curatorial support, collector interest, understanding how market moments impact long-term value, but not being owned by them. You don't need to guess. You just need to understand framework and understand patterns. You need vision. You need research and conviction. And that's the difference between reacting to a moment and building a legacy that lasts beyond that moment. Look, if you're serious about building a real art collection and not just buying artwork, but building purpose and equity and long-term value, then I would love to personally be a part of your journey. And with that, I really want to invite you to join my Patreon community. Inside, there are 3 different ways you can be a part. The one that I'm going to recommend right now is Building Glory. This one is for those of you who really want to go deeper into strategy. What we do there is study the market together. So I study different aspects of the market, break it down, and put those frameworks in a teachable style within the Patreon. And I give you guys frameworks and worksheets and resources that you guys can pull on. So if you're ready to kind of go a little bit deeper into getting more and more resources like this type of content, then join Building Glory. I would really love to get to know you guys there. But look, if you're one of those people that you don't want to just receive the content and have to figure it out on your own, then there's another tier called Mastering Glory. And this tier includes everything from Building Glory. Plus, we get a one-on-one session together each month. And for Mastering Glory, you can use that session however you want. You can bring all of your questions. Nothing is off limit. And I'll help you guys work through whatever questions you have. You can use that for strategy, whether that is determining what your collecting mission is, determining what your values might be. You can use that session as a time to talk through an artist and that artist market and kind of talk through what we think that artist will do in the future, and just to give you a second idea and a better idea of what I also believe about a particular artist. You can also use this as a time to build your collection plan and even organize some of your current artworks and kind of start that documentation process. Usually I keep Mastering Glory pretty limited to 4 seats per month, but for this particular month, I do want to open it up to 6 seats, to 6 spots. I'm finding myself really enjoying talking to you guys one-on-one, and it seems to, from the reviews that we've gotten back, that it's been very helpful beyond you guys just having to think through your own challenges together. If the response is strong to 6, then I might open it up to 8, and then we'll see from there. So anyway, if y'all ready to jump in the Patreon, the link is in the description, and I'll see you guys there. I want to leave you with this. Every art collection tells a story. The only question is, how are you going to write that story? And what chapters, what characters, how is it going to play out? If you want to take authorship of your values and equity and narrative, then you're already walking towards that by even engaging in videos like this. You don't have to collect perfectly, but you do have to collect intentionally, because when the hype fades, the market is going to shift, the room is going to clear, and legacy is the only thing that's going to stay. All right, Glory fam, artists, collectors, enthusiasts, I love you guys. I really enjoyed thinking about this today. And I hope this continues to be a place for all of us to learn together. And yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Until next time, peace.